How do you explain, what is your doctrine on the origin of the Caucasian race?
Well, the Caucasian race came about, they're called white people, and they were white people. It was made that. Caucasian is a name given to the quality of the man, means originally weak bone and stale face. The person have a stale color, and his bones are weak, and the color Caucasian. But actually, he was made white. This was brought about, we would consider just recently. To talking into billions and trillions of years, the Caucasian race thereafter is just here of today almost. That took place 6,000 years ago.
And a guest, and maybe he could help me to convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef bin Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due, we thank that great God for his coming to the wilderness of North America to raise up amongst us the first begotten from the dead, that special soul. I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In those holy and righteous names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. We'll be right back after these quick commercials. Looking for something that feels good, looks great, and stands the test of time? Well, we have it for you. Black Royalty is our athleisure line that is made from the finest bamboo and cotton blend. We have designed high quality tracksuit and t-shirts in multiple colors that provide you the most comfort when you need it most. Whether you're in the gym or running errands or just lounging around with loved ones, you need to be in the best quality clothing as possible. We have constructed a high quality clothing line that does not break the bank, and we beat out all of our competitors on price. So please, if you're interested in being comfortable, not just in the gym, but when you're running around and doing errands, please visit blackroyaltywear.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Black Royalty. And if you have any questions or comments about our brand and how you can help participate, you can find us at blackroyaltywear@gmail.com. We'll be quick to answer your questions, and with our responses, we will be very thorough. So also, like I said, Black Royalty is for you because it was made by you with the intentions of serving you. So leave all those other clothing lines behind and get on what makes sense, something that's going to stand the test of time, because black don't crack. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back again to another installment of Know Thyself Radio Show, where we make it our business, our purpose, our duty, our righteous responsibility to give you nothing but the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to solve the problem of the black man and woman of today. And again, I want to give another thank you, and I totally appreciate our brother Shaheed Muslim, for coming on to Know Thyself Radio Show and bearing witness to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad by giving his life story to help guide and direct and give us inspiration on how a man can be a part of the deaf, dumb, and blind and then be resurrected by the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to go on to do things of consequence by establishing the great institution, organization, and higher learning center of CROW, the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He shows through his life the greatness that can come from implementing the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I thank you again, Brother Shaheed Muslim. I also want to then thank Brother Halif Muhammad for being my guest a couple weeks back as well. And I'm just so happy that I was able to interview those two great men. And if it be the will of Almighty God Allah, in the future, I look forward to continuing this discourse conversation so they can continue to teach us more of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. But today I was scheduled to do a guest, but sometimes you get those feelings, those sensations that you just can't let pass by. And I felt that it was imperative that I came on and articulated a subject matter that I think is of grave consequence to our people and those who are aware and open and intelligent enough to see the onslaught that we face. I was part of, a couple weeks back, a panel discussion where it was supposed to be centered around black millennials, which are those who were born in the mid 80s up into the early 90s, about faith, about religion and religious organizations. And the discussion was, for the most part, totally disconnected from the reality. We were supposed to be centering around the conversation of why are millennials, why are young blacks leaving organized religion, organized faith, why are they disgruntled or unhappy with the current state of the systems, and what can be implemented to be a benefit for our people. What are the real problems? What are the root of the things that we must, as young blacks who are connected to God and want to do something that is beneficial for our people, what can we do? But the conversation after my initial opening, as I was the first one to speak from the panel, was turned and geared in another direction. And the focus became pitting black men and the black woman against each other to put in some type of light the disgust of the black woman because she has been oppressed, abused, and mistreated by the black man, especially in organized religion. And also, at the height of the conversation or discussion, or at least what seemed to be the most important from my fellow panelists, was the discrimination against homosexuals, queers, lesbians, so forth and so on. As if that was the number one pressing issue that we face as black people. And I was really appalled by the conversation, because at one point, outside of the fact of me bringing it up and making it an issue, did we talk about acquisition of land? Did we talk about pulling our resources together to create and generate institutions that would be beneficial for our people? Did we create some type of commerce? Did we create an economic system that we put in a structure, implement a structure that would protect us from the greatest oppressor, our open and outright enemy, the one who is the root of all our problems, whether it be man against woman, or even if we feel that we haven't been justly viewed as homosexuals, which is the white man in the white man's world, white supremacy, as it's the number one deterrent to the progress of the black man here in America and throughout the world. But that wasn't even brought up. And I said, man, it must be another agenda. It must be another purpose. It must be another motive that this institution, which is backed by the American government, because you're talking about the Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture, who we know was backed by the U.S. government. And so anytime you have a government creating governmental agencies, they're going to push and promote the agenda of the government. As well, who was also connected to this panel discussion, to this God Talk platform that was created, that I was a part of, was the Pew Research Institute, who we also know is a governmental agency which has been established to not just monitor the sentiments of our people, especially black people, but the people of America in general, but also to manipulate and also to put and point into the direction which they see would be the most advantageous for their agenda, for their purpose, and for their goals. So it became clear. But yet and still, I'm going to say I let it go, but I understand that I'm in the wilderness of North America. I'm in this hell that we're in that has been manifested by an open and outright enemy. And that goes with it. And some of our people either fall victim or don't have the courage enough to stand on the platform of truth and articulate the message of the day. I'm getting to my point. And so maybe a couple days later or so, it was a gentleman named Malik Yoba. And you might have heard me mention him on a previous podcast because he said something in the interview that was very sketchy as it relates to him being an actor. And he said that he doesn't consider true male actors legitimate unless they're willing to put on a dress and to play all roles, even if they're playing women's role. And I said, that sounds very odd, to say the least. Why would it be representative of a good actor, a good male actor, to play or portray a female? What benefit does our people receive from seeing a black man be other than his natural self? What benefit, what reward are we getting in showing our people that we don't have the ability to be comfortable in our own sexual orientation and our own skin? And so I made mention to that. You can go back and listen to that recording. It was the second or third episode. But he was in the news again, and he was quoted saying that I'm a heterosexual male, meaning I am attracted to the opposite sex. But in my heterosexuality, so to speak, I'm also attracted to trans women. And you say, hold on. You have to stop right then and there because that doesn't make any sense. You can't be heterosexual and say that you're attracted to trans women when the root of that transsexual woman, so to speak, is a man. Meaning you want the illusion that you're with a woman, but you want all of the attributes of being with a man. The self-deception, and we're going to get into that, but I usually stay away from the homosexual conversation, not in the sense that I'm scared or I'm petrified of the backlash that I may get speaking to it. I do speak to it. I don't make it a pressing point because I understand the most important thing at this moment is to free ourselves from our oppressor by identifying the true nature of God, the devil, and most importantly, ourselves. Creating a nation of our own. Separating from our open and outright enemy, so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So that, though it needs to be addressed, it's not at the top of my list. But when that statement was uttered into the universe on a platform such as the Breakfast Club, which is one that is received in multiple countries, all over the planet, different markets, radio, YouTube, music or listening radio applications such as iHeart, it has a mass reach as well as a mass appeal to the youth of the world, especially black youth. And when I see a message being articulated like that to confuse and to disorient our people, especially our impressionable youth, something has to be done. Something must be spoken up to. Because if you want to say you're gay, then that's okay. But you are not about to redefine heterosexuality to fit a homosexuality agenda. That's totally unacceptable. And so, as I was listening to that statement being made, and then as well as listening to or the non-existent rebuttal of those who were around him, who were questioning him, the members of the Breakfast Club, I said, oh man, this thing is much deeper than I realized, in the sense of the urgency that it must be addressed. Because the pressing point isn't just homosexuality at the end of 2019 going into 2020, but it is the emergence of transsexuality, the identification and the acceptance of being one who is at the root totally confused about their own sexual orientation to be accepted other than themselves. Now, I'm speaking from the perspective of the black man and woman. That is most pressing to me. So whether you feel as a white man or Asian man or whatever that what I'm saying doesn't fit you, then it don't. But I'm especially talking to the black man and woman because this, what I am about to say and what I'm about to go through today, definitely fits you. Because I've seen that when you take back all of the superficial things that have been attributed to this so-called LGBT movement, the root of it is a total unwilling example of a person who will fight or oppose their oppressor, to totally submit to white supremacy and its dominion and dominance over you. I have seen in this day and time the manifestation of the perfectly made slave, one who would never, ever pick up a finger towards their open and outright enemy. We have seen in the day and time the creation over a culmination of years that they're finally able to start to put into the atmosphere, into the environment on a public and mass scale, that they have totally dominated and created, in some regard, the perfect slave by redefining black masculinity and black femininity. This is so important. And so I'm going to go to the messenger of God, as I always do, because this is not Know Thyself radio show unless we are able to read, study, and hear the words of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in doing so, he's going to help me further elucidate my point. And he taught us the story of that evil, wicked genius, Yaqub, who was the creator of the white race. Why am I saying that? Whether you believe the story of Yaqub or not, it's immaterial. The reality of what it was produced is evident in our day and lives. And us here as students of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we wholeheartedly, completely believe that story, and we see it manifested in our day and our time. So we don't have any wavering perceptions about whether it was true or not. We know it's true. But as well, we know that this enemy, this creation, this product of Yaqub, has been diabolically implementing the same tactics that was used to create him in creating a new Negro, a new slave, where the man is totally docile, impotent, and incompetent. We are in a day and time, brother and sister, that we need the messenger of God more than ever. Now, I want to read from Message to Black Men in America, page 110. I'm starting in about the middle of the page, and listen to the messenger, because as I go into my point, I want to show you how great a man he is, was, and forever will be. He said, I am for the separation of my people from their enemies, that they share not in the enemy's destruction, even though I may lose my own life in this daring attempt to save them by the plain, simple truth of God and power. It must be done and will be done. regardless of whom or what. It can be done in one day, but Allah desires to make himself known in the West as it is written of him. Now, going to this Yaqub. Over 66 trillion years from the moon has proven a great and wise show of the original power to build wonders in heavens and earth. 6,000 years ago, or to be more exact, 6,600 years ago, as Allah taught me, our nation gave birth to another God whose name was Yaqub. He started studying the life germ of man to try to make a new creation, a new man who our 24 scientists have foretold 8,400 years before the birth of Mr. Yaqub. And the scientists were aware of his birth and work before he was born, as they are today of the intentions or ideas of the present world. Now, what does that sound like? Who studies the life germ more than the white man? Who studies every biological aspect of this world more than the white man? Why does he study it? He studied it for the sole purpose of preserving his time on this planet. He knows he has a limited time. He knows that his doom or his demise is imminent, but he's trying to find a way to circumvent it. And even in his arrogance, he also wants to preserve or elongate his time by creating a new creation that he would be able to sustain himself in. Because the transgender movement is just a step to the next, even more diabolical transhuman movement. But we're not going to get into that right now. But it's something you can look up. It goes to further give validity to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, why is this important? This is important because if we look through our history and we looked at every facet of life that we have been impacted by, it has been used by the white race as a weapon to destroy and to bring down our defenses so that we will be susceptible in being this new race of beings. What type of being? A black man exteriorly but interiorly be void of anything that is reticent of the God that created us. Anything that houses truth, justice, peace, all of those things that we were fundamentally created on, the principles that we live our lives or should live our lives on in our natural state have been totally and utterly removed for this new being that they are creating, this new species that they are creating. So you don't see the impact. This isn't me being a conspiracy theorist. This isn't me being someone who is paranoid. I'm telling you the plain and simple truth, because it should be embarrassing for black people to be on a stage where they have the ability to connect with each other, build with each other, identify the true enemy, and implement the necessary solutions that will bring them out of their circumstances and situations, and they would rather talk about sexual orientation and sexual preference. That doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't even make any sense. But it does make sense once you realize that those aren't the people who we were originally intended to be. They have been totally destroyed, mentally and spiritually decimated. And it's not a knock to my brothers and sisters who said, but I'm saying if you look across this globe, but especially here in this country, you will see millions of our people with that same mentality, a playful and submissive mentality, one who totally avoids the even question of trying to acquire their freedom. Nobody wants the acquisition of their own land where they can govern themselves freely. They want to totally be under the yoke of our enemy. Back to the messenger. According to the word of Allah to me, Mr. Yaqub was seen by the 23 scientists of the black nation over 15,000 years ago. They predicted in the year 8,400, that was in our calendar year before this world of the white race, this man Yaqub would be born 20 miles from the present holy city, Mecca, Arabia. And that at the time of his birth, the satisfaction and dissatisfaction of the people would be 70% satisfied, 30% dissatisfied. Again now, the white man is very aware of the circumstances of the dissatisfaction of both the black and the white race. What does he do? He plays to this dissatisfaction of the white race, knowing that they're in such a state of decadence, knowing that they're in natural decline, that they don't have the ability to produce or reproduce themselves at a rate that they can balance out or be above their death rate. So they see their inevitable end coming. So how do you satisfy that dissatisfied? You give them a way out. You show them that even if you are going to leave, you're going to take as many of these blacks as possible. They will not be intact. We'll destroy this world totally before we hand it back over to them. That's what type of hate and disdain they just don't just have for you, but for the God that created you. But what does he do with the dissatisfied amongst the blacks? He knows that you're in a state where you are totally confused and disarray, that you want change. So he offers you a change, but in that change, it's only external. Internally, it does no difference for our people, or makes no difference for our people. So instead of giving you freedom, he's giving you sexual freedom, in the sense that you can explore more confusion by exploiting your inability to identify the real problem. Hear what I am saying through the words of the messenger of God. And that when this man is born, he will change civilization, the world, and produce a new race of people who would rule the original black nation for 6,000 years, from 9,000th year to the 15,000th year. Now, what am I saying? I'm going to take a pause right there for a moment. When we look throughout history, we look at the adverse effects of the total decimation of our nature through the avenues, institutions, the forced institutions of this white race on our people. If you look at slavery, the breaking down of the moral system that governed us, the 64 years from 1555 to 1619 that we were totally taken from our original selves and brought down to a state of deaf, dumb, and blind. So at that point, we were more acceptable or willing to accept the atrocities that will come our way. Now, you've had men and women who, in aspects up until when God had revealed himself to the messenger of God, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that took a stand for truth, that tried to make a difference. But because only the God himself could save us, they became ineffective endeavors because they weren't whole. Think about the forceful removing of our land, our language, our culture, being brought into one where we still created everything that was over here, but it was redefined and identified with the white mind and white perspective. Again, keeping you confused because you learned through anybody who studied any type of stratagem as it relates to war, studied or read the book Art of War. Warfare is based on deception. It's based on confusion. It's based on keeping a people totally and ultimately in a state where they never, ever have their wits about them. I mean, baffled, beguiled, bewildered. That's what you are, and that's what warfare is. Thinking up is down and down is up. East is west and west is east. north is south and south. As long as you're in the opposite direction of where you want to go, the other side is implementing a strategy that is effective in their war. That's what has been done against us. You are in a continuous and perpetual war with your enemy that has to come to an end by you defeating them. Then you talk about the physical and also psychological breaking of us through buck breaking, through the castration, through the hanging and the mutilation that we face as a people. See, this is the way that this devil was splicing and mixing us, shaving away through different avenues our defense mechanism, our ability to detect and protect ourselves, our immune system, so to speak. Anybody who studied or read anything about the true nature of AIDS knows that it's not a sexual transmitted disease in the sense that it gives some physical adverse effects, but it isn't a disease that doesn't necessarily attack your genitalia or your private areas, but it's one that attacks your immune system. See, AIDS, HIV attacks the immune system of the body, which leaves the body renderless in protecting itself from anything such as the common cold. Why is that important? We know that's important, one, in two aspects. We know that HIV was created as a governmental armed force, created and concocted weapon, biochemical weapon that was used to destroy the black men and women across this planet. But we also know the implication that it has on us psychologically, mentally, spiritually, intellectually. When your immune system is totally broken down and it's not able to operate properly, you will accept anything. Goes back to that war paradigm. You are in a state of total and perpetual confusion. Hear what I'm saying? This is the period that this evil, diabolical enemy of ours has been making the perfect slave. As Yaqub did with making the white man, taking the lighter and mixing them together until he got to that point. See, he's just mixing and mixing. We got to understand these things. The experimentation, whether you look at Tuskegee and these different, there's a number of other experiments, and I'm using that as an example, but these are things that again have adversely affected not just our physical, but our psychological and our intellect that we end up passing on to generations. So you mixing again, you spicing, you look at the experiments, whether it be the over-sexualization of music, movies, and pop culture. When you get bombarded with this vibration that's hitting your ear, these are things that's transforming you into something other than yourself. You have been totally remade in the way that the devil wants you to be, so that you will be a non-threat to his existence. Because at the root of who you are, you're God. Ye know not that ye are gods and children of the Most High God. But if you are unaware of that reality, you operate in whatever form or fashion your oppressor has created you to operate in. Listen to what I'm saying. We have been totally broken down through the food, the chemical warfare, the effects of technology, and the dehumanization of being unable to communicate properly in the presence of one another. We have become robotic in a sense that we're not able to properly feel each other's, have empathy and sympathy for each other. We have become cold and disheartened and disconnected from anything that is beneficial for our people. That means we don't have the ability, again, you're talking about the immune system, to protect ourselves. That's why you can look on TV each and every day and see your black brother and sister being killed, murdered in the street, being treated and misharmed, and you don't do nothing about it. Forget on the TV, you can be in the presence of a white racist police officer who is totally beating one of your young daughters. And men stand around so full with cowardice, watching as they destroy not just the physical body of this young daughter, but if she survives the ordeal mentally, emotionally, she's not just distraught, she's dismantled. So that means she will never have an effect or affinity or trust for black men, because in her time, her hour of need, she was abandoned, left for dead, so to speak. So what type of psychological or emotional feelings that she can have that is conducive to a proper relationship with any man or any woman or black people in general that she can create going forward? It becomes non-existent. It becomes non-existent. So we participate in what the legalese calls, or the legal definition, criminal homicide. Criminal homicide just simply constitutes as murder when it is committed purposely or knowingly, or committed recklessly under the circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life. There has been no value for the black life, and because of that, we are committing homicide, criminal homicide, to one another and to our race, because these so-called intellects have the knowledge or have the understanding or been exposed to the messenger, and they are sitting idly by, not doing anything that would bring forth the protection perpetually for our people. So we have to look at this, brother, sister, for what it really is, and not believe in some fairy tale or some concocted lie that has been created for us to buy into. Now, understand the eugenics movement. The eugenics movement is also a part of the process that has been implemented into creating this slave, creating this new breed of people, this black person who will be totally docile, which is totally opposite of your nature. Eugenics is a pseudoscience concerned with the control of hereditary traits through selective human mating. It is also defined as the deliberate control by law or social pressure for the perpetuation of human genetic traits. What am I saying? I'm saying that you have been unaware of the adverse effects, one, of who you've been mating. They destroyed the very fabric of relationship, man and woman, with each other, to the sense that now we are not just creating same-sex marriages, but we're creating a relationship where we don't even want to be the sex that we were originally intended to be by God Almighty. Why is that important? Because if you don't understand that even in the time of chattel slavery, when they were breeding slaves physically, mating man with his daughter, mating daughter with her brother, mating mother with her son, that this cohabitation physically would create not just a disdain for your brother and your sister, for your family members, but it would also create a level of disgust as it relates to the way you see each other. And these traits have been passed on. And so when you see, unfortunately, circumstances where our women are being raped by their fathers or their uncles or their cousins, this dates back to the chattel slavery, to the plantation, where it was forced upon us, and we were never able to relinquish those ways by being in our captivity. But that was strategically and scientifically done to create a race of people who at this point would have such hatred for themselves, such hatred for the opposite sex, that they will refuse to even accept the sexual orientation that was given to them by their birth. Psychologically, what does that mean? As a black man especially, when you say that I don't want to be a black male anymore, I want to be a female, you are saying that I totally submit to the male in my life, which is the white supremacist, which is the white man. You saying I totally come under your rule and under your dominion. I don't want to fight you at all. I'll be your wife. That's what you're saying, because there's no way that you have the will as a black man to fight if you identify as a black woman. you're totally removing the fight away from your very existence. Because how can you properly identify the cause of what is the real problem in your life and fight that problem and overcome that problem if you're confused about how you view yourself in the mirror? If you can't even see who you really are in the mirror, you'll never be able to see who your real and open enemy is. But this is the part of eugenics that we missed. See, we thought it was just birth control in the sense of killing off babies. That's an aspect of it, a traumatizing aspect of it, but we gotta realize that they knew they weren't able to kill all of us off. They knew that we wouldn't be able to kill all of us off, even if they created an environment where we would be hating one another. They knew it would be survivals, and they want survivors because they know this planet cannot run without the presence of the black man on it. It'll implode. Chemically, environmentally, we're tied into the very essence of this planet. Don't forget, through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he taught that the sun, moon, stars were here to serve you, not you serve it. You're the master of this universe in the sense that you're the most important creation, the creation of God. What am I saying? I'm saying they're much more intelligent than we put on, and we're much more deaf, dumb, and blind than we're willing to accept. This is a process that Charles Darwin called evolution by natural selection. The evolution for who? The evolution of him, meaning that he would try to continue his life, but the ability to decimate a people by natural selecting those who will best serve their interests. So we're gonna break this down tonight. I'm gonna be a little bit longer than I usually am, but I'm gonna go through it as quick as I possibly can. And I'm gonna have to come back and I'm gonna do a much more extensive version of this. Maybe not on the podcast, but on one of my other sites, and I'll keep you abreast on to what I'm gonna do that on. But we gotta understand that the ability to implement eugenics is both scientific and a social movement. I talked about earlier pop culture, movies, music, radio, commercials, dress. These are social constructs that were created to create a form of eugenics that will emasculate the man and try to feminize the woman, blurring the lines, making it more and more acceptable for a black man to be in a dress. Why were they pushing actors to wear dresses? Think about this. Why was it so important for black men, especially in the field of entertainment, to wear dresses and then to proceed to play women's roles? Because they had to condition the minds of the youth of the black people of society, one, to find it funny, because once you find it funny, then you're able to easily accept it. And once you accept it, you start to participate in the same activity that at one point you were disgusted with. That is eugenics at its very nature. You create a social construct, get enough people to buy into it. You get people to buy into it not because it is beneficial and advantageous for them. It's because you incentivize them to take it. You take a Negro off the streets who don't have $1 in his pocket, you put some money in his pocket, you throw some white women at him, you give him a Benz, you give him a decent house in a way that seems that he could take care of his family or change his circumstances. He'll be willing to do anything and everything that you tell him. And that's how you create a circumstance where at one point, you right, it was frowned upon in the black community. We weren't doing and indulging in such activities. And now it's readily acceptable, meaning we look towards being not just homosexual, but transgender. And you got guys like Malik Yoba, who has the audacity to say that he's a straight man who dresses as a woman and says it's a prerequisite to be a great and effective actor for a black man to dress and play women's roles. Now tell you that he likes trans women, though he's heterosexual. That means he wants breasts, even if they're artificially implanted, but he also wants genitalia as well. You see the confusion of our people? How can a brother like that fight white supremacy? It's impossible. By influencing reproduction, societies can affect both the direction and the rate in which human genetic evolution occurs. Now you see why it's so important that you, like I said earlier, you create abortion centers where you're killing off black men and women, but you also create a system, those who are already born, where you kill them off through the social systems, where you put in cages and enslave the black men so he'd be disconnected from the black woman and the black child. So now you have environments that are not in this proper context, that are incomplete. Then, since you don't have a positive masculine figure in the home to give direction, to give purpose, not just to the young black man, but to the young daughter as well, and the black woman, because it is her nature to submit, like I said earlier, and to take heed to a man. But if the black man is not in the house, what man is she taking heed to? Who she's taking her instructions from? Who she's listening to? She's listening to the white man. And you know from his inception, he has never done, not one time since our interaction together, anything that has been beneficial or consequential for the black woman, or for the white woman either, but especially not the black woman. You remember when they conquered us, you were his booty. You were his prize. To have sexual access to our women was their prize. This is what we are facing in this day and time. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm gonna finish with this eugenics part. Now they've been doing this for so long. We gotta realize the reality of it. Now this was in 1883. The eugenist Sir Francis Galton, cousin of Charles Darwin, just to let you know, who was an intellectual father of modern eugenics. And it says, as a social movement, eugenics encompasses all efforts to modify selection in order to bring about genetic change in a desired direction. Galton contended that the purpose of eugenics was not to copy the blind way in which selection often operates, but to deliberately change selection in a human way. Whew, man. All this stuff can be looked up, just to let you know. This isn't something I'm just coming off the top of my head. This is all documented. We've been taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that one must research and study and familiarize himself with the white man. He says, study the white man, you will learn much. Because you created him, you taught him, but to know who you were, and what you don't want to be, you have to study him now. He said, eugenics isn't, like I said before, just about killing no babies in no abortion wards. It's about taking the people, not to copy the way that they are, but to deliberately take them into a direction that you want them to go. The whole purpose of us being under white people, being around white people, were always to be servants unto them. When they were fighting and killing each other in Europe, when they were killing each other before they even was so-called civilized by the Moors or Africans from 1711 to 1492, but they became a world power when they started to circumnavigate this planet through the direction and guidance of us. They were killing each other when they were walking on all fours in the caves. So at that point, they realized at some point we got to stop killing. Well, we can still kill each other, but we got to have somebody that we can totally have serve us. And so that's where you came in. You were always an object for their servitude. Nothing more, ever. Just meant to be servants unto them. So throughout our history of us interacting with each other, the whole premise, no matter what it looked like from their words or the fake pseudo laws that they passed, the intent was always to create and define and redefine a better slave. That was the objective. So you thought you were progressing because their physical and it wasn't really that different, but the way they approached it from an institutional standpoint may have deviated a little bit. The intent was the same. How do we make a slave that will be a slave into perpetuity? So we got to look at this thing for what it is. But don't excuse their ways of birth control or eliminating the population of our people through means of chemical and biochemical warfare. What am I saying? Transgender homosexuality is the greatest form of birth control that there could ever happen. You don't have to physically kill somebody, but you kill them by cutting off their lineage, by incapacitating them, or taking the desire away to reproduce. Once you lose the desire to procreate, then you lose your purpose on this planet. But we know throughout history, whether it be situations of the Depo-Provera, whether it be in South Africa and Zimbabwe. Listen to this. As a matter of fact, I got an article. All this can be looked up. In South Africa, this was some time back in the 90s, but it's a different chemical they use, but it's still prevalent. Depo-Provera in South Africa and in Zimbabwe. In South Africa, where white demographics are increasingly concerned about the accelerating black birth rate, Depo-Provera is being forcibly administered to black women by government-funded family planning agencies. One of the doctors there once said, one of the leading black physicians said that there is no such thing as informed consent here. The agencies are administering Depo-Provera shots to young black girls without even asking their consent. Why am I saying that? Because Depo-Provera was used in Australia to wipe out the Aborigines. Saying they would give it to so-called retarded or promiscuous young Aborigines women in Australia. Why is that important? We know, that's why the message says you got to create your own schools. We know another form of chemical warfare is that you're able to identify mental retardation in the schools by falsely diagnosing them, by having a system of white supremacy being implemented through the educational system, which allows you in their system to justly administrate drugs that have the ability to disorient, to destroy the cells of their, and to clog up the neurological pathways of a particular person and youth, but also to sterilize them. So we see it evident and covered in all aspects of life. It's not one form or one entity or one institution that has been created that is not meant to be a weapon of mass destruction for the development and growth and the progress of our people. I know I'm going hard today, but I got to. So when you look at the institution that I spoke about earlier, the museum, Pew Research Institution, these are sterilization clinics in the sense that they're there to sterilize the minds, the aspirations, the hopes of our people by infiltrating through the black skin of our outer appearance the white agenda into our subconscious by changing the narrative from something constructive to something that is immaterial. Do you hear what I'm saying, black brother and sister? Do you hear what I'm saying? It does not give us no joy in being able to identify the stupidity, but the ignorance of our people by sometimes willingly and unwillingly put into play the diabolical plan of our enemy and our adversary. Now, the reason why even in the museum, they broke up the classifications of baby boomers and Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. Why? They want to use these age ranges to properly and appropriately identify the progress of their implementation of their stratagems to create and to perpetuate this new breed of slave that they inevitably see themselves bring into existence, that will take and control and destroy us. Because if you look anytime in news or any type of television or social media, who is being not just antagonized but attacked the most relentlessly is the heterosexual black male, especially if he has some intellect and he's against white supremacy. He is attacked at the highest level, ostracized, criticized. They said the black heterosexual man is the white man of the black race, saying that you're the devil of the black race, that you're the real enemy of the black race. They went so far to even create derogatory terms to identify straight black men, cisgender, as if, just call me a man that loves women, heterosexual even if you want to go. But see, that's a negative connotation that has been created in the language of the homosexuals to downplay and to disrespect the black man, because they were created for the sole purpose to destroy the black man. If you look throughout history, even if you look at Haiti and the revolution in 1804 when they overthrew France and fought other European governments, what ultimately brought down their demise? Because it was not properly identified, and that was a part of the eugenics and the reclassification and redefining of the black man. Even then, in the early 1800s, late 1700s, the mulatto race was loyal not to the black people who freed them from their oppressors, but the mulatto race who stayed connected and had affinity and loyalty to their white slave masters who raped their mothers or whatever the case may be, more than they did their own black brother and sister. Because of the illusion of inclusion, because they might have been incentivized with certain trinkets to promote and promulgate the agenda of the white race. But in actuality, they were all being treated the same. You were still being mistreated, misused, killed, raped. You just might have had a prettier dress on than the other slaves. That was the only delineation. But it was still enough to turn our people. And we see that in this day and time. Why is that important? Like I said about the classifications of the age, because they want to know that this new Gen Z, his immune system is totally been dissolved, making them accepted of just about anything, unless it is to their benefit as a black people. Listen to this. In the 1970s, it was discovered that our thoughts and feelings have a physical substrate to them. When you think a thought, protein-like molecules called neuropeptides are created. These neuropeptides fit into receptors in the cell walls and the neurons. Intra-brain communication is by way of neuropeptides. Immune system cells also have receptors for neuropeptides. Okay, I'm giving you some science, but I want you to understand this. Neuropeptides are just a chemical reaction to the thoughts that were created, but it means the ability to retain memories. So thoughts, so-called feelings or reactions to things, your body stores those things. Remember, the body has the ability to create a reservoir or a bank, so to speak, of these different events. You see where I'm going with this? Why is this important? Why? Let me keep going. Okay, which other? The immune system cells also have receptors for the same neuropeptides, meaning your immune system has the same memory processing ability. It has the same ability to retain information, your immune system, your defense mechanism. They can also generate the same neuropeptides, which supports the fact of these cells, like all cells in the body, being conscious. The immune cells make the same chemicals the brain produces during emotional and mental states. How does the immune system decide what it should deal with in the body, and how should it deal with it? It has to remember the memory. It remembers the last time anyone encountered a specific chemical combination. It can be recognized anything that has been encountered by the way of living species. The immune cells within the blood are in effect a circulating nervous system of a special type. I'm gonna keep on going because I want to get to this particular point. All cells in the body have some level of conscious and produce hormonal and enzymal substances. During emotional states of joy and exhilaration, you create interleukin and interferon. During panic and terror states, cortisol and adrenaline is produced, which damage the immune system. Because of any type of stress, societal, electromagnetic, or otherwise, affects the integrity of the immune system. The environment within the body is becoming more suited for deteriorating processes and the host of organisms that rise during such states. Now you see the trauma effect and how it has on our body. Why I say we're in such terror, such harm, such disarray. It destroys the immune system, and your body remembers it, and it only responds to that now because it has become the normal. Thus, the increase of this organic problem is parallel in the decline in civilization, but only for those who are steeped in social. Okay, but it also says it has the ability to be passed on from generation to generation. So not only do you pass on physical traits, but you pass on emotional, psychological traits to your progeny. Meaning that all of the hate and disdain that we say we don't face anymore is already in us. All of that rape and murder and mayhem is in us through the conditioning of all of the chemical and biological and physical warfare that has been against us. So now our immune system is totally decimated, meaning that we're receptive to anything. So now we're able at a neurological point to be reprogrammed, redefined, and recreated, being brought into existence the ultimate slave, one who's totally submissive and docile in the state of bringing up any type of resurrection or insurrection that would be able to bring down this system of lies and deception that was created by the white race. We got to understand that at this point, we see that, and I'm going to finish on this, the belief that sexual orientation or that type of confusion is you're born with it. No, but you are born at a level that you're more susceptible to that reality being true. I'm gonna read one more excerpt. This was in 1982. Premature sexual maturity of human children due to the use of veterinarian hormones. Now they used animal products and the consumption of animal products to alter our molecular structure in a way that we are, again, putting ourselves in position that we are totally out of line and out of whack of our true nature. Like I said, that's why the messenger said how to eat to live. You don't know the proper foods to eat. You're not able to properly defend yourself against not just internal and also external forces, but the mental capacity to be able to protect and be aware of what's attacking you. In 1982, 2 years after the Reagan-Bush administration was elected, the February issue of the Journal of the Puerto Rican Medical Association reported a growing number of cases premature sexual development of children, which included cases of puberty, vaginal bleeding in 5-year-old girls, and other similar problems. If this happened to one of your children, how would you feel? That's what the article said. They discovered that when they took these children off meat and fresh milk, symptoms would often regress, according to the report. It was clearly observed that 97% of the cases and the appearance of abnormal breast tissue was related to the consumption of this milk and food. Obviously, regulations regarding livestock are not well enforced in Puerto Rico or in other parts of the United States. Now it goes to try to explain or rationalize that there's a difference between United States and Puerto Rico, even though Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. But they're so diabolical and insidious that they poison the animals. That's why you see these chickens that never see the day of light, have hormones and estrogen being pumped into them. The same thing with the cows. Big, massive cow. I mean, it's disgusting. But they are not just doing it for the production of faster meat and chicken and beef. No. They know that it is a way that once you consume this food, that those same chemicals are going to enter your bloodstream, therefore leaving you susceptible to the same changes that those animals were facing. Why? Because yes, they're going to have some white people who have those same adverse effects, but remember, chemically, they're not made like you. They weren't made from the original dirt and dust of the earth. That's why you see white people. I met a white guy who seemed coherent about himself, said he do drugs every single day, but he just looked like a normal white guy. But when you do drugs every day, it is apparent and obvious. It's all over you because you're not naturally that way. That's unnatural to you. So it affects you more adversely. Same thing with all of the other chemicals and things that we see that's being ingested through the foods. Yeah, white people are affected by it, but they're not affected at the same rate as you because you are biologically and chemically made up different. You're made from the earth. You're God. So things that are detrimental are going to affect you at a much more higher rate than it would the white race. But they have white sacrifice, as they always have, but the intent is to destroy you, to make you other than yourself. And that's where we got to the point where we are now, where they have created a people who does not just accept transgender as normal or says that there's over 100 different sexual orientations, but are willing and able and wanting to be the new participants, because we see that as a way out. If we become gay, we become transgender, we become homosexual, we don't have to deal with the atrocities of being a black man or a black woman in America. That somehow we can rid ourselves of white supremacy. And that's just not the case. We have seen in this day and time one of the most diabolical plans coming to fruition right before our eyes. And we're fighting over things that are inconsequential. The root, so teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, is to all of our problems, the white race and his evil race of children that are continuing their work of their fathers. Know the truth, understand the truth, and change your reality. No longer should we be victim to all of these atrocious atrocities, atrocious things and atrocities that we've been succumbing to. It's time to pick up the truth as so taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and change our lives. Again, I'm going to go more in depth in this because I want to break these down at a much more detailed level. And I'll let you know when I'm going to do that very soon. But I'm working on it. But I want us to understand the reality of things because if we're going to overcome this circumstance and situation, it's only going to be through the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I thank you for listening as I leave in the words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.